playing on, it would probably be on the DMS draft. But in saying that, obviously Buff and Joys are, you know, the number one team for a reason. And I imagine a lot of that comes down to individual skill. And I think that is somewhat where they've lent with this kind of a composition, right? You're talking about a lot of skill expression on some of these characters. So let's just wait and see how this one plays out. But yeah, just in terms of team comps, I will slightly favor DMS personally.
Miguel's actually decided not to be going into the solo lanes. Not too surprised that Demov on the Yamato would rather go into that. Lash isn't necessarily my favorite solo laner, although there are a lot of teams who like to play him into that position. One of the interesting things, though, is going to be for me that Psycho is going to be put up directly against Sergi. So Psycho and what he can get done in the laning phase with the Abrams is going to come down to, you know, a lot of the limitations on Zergi's 7 coming online up here. It's not the easiest matchup in the world as the Abrams to fight into the 7. You can't really deny his farm, but at the same time, it comes down to that early rotations. But early fight taken by Obik takes away first blood. That's going to be IV hitting the deck.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue, isn't it, right? We can talk all you really like about team comps and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to be able to win your lane, if you're not even going to be able to survive in your lane, that could be a bit of a problem. Demov also able to get the solo kill onto Wolfie. So, again, you know, what are you going to do? You've now got 2 losing lanes already.
Absolutely, it's going to be very difficult. But that being said, Demov has gone down to the tower. And listen, maybe I'm just wrong and maybe this is a strat, but I don't think you're supposed to want to let that happen. It is going to help you reset a lot more quickly, so I've not really been keeping track of these laning dynamics, so it's entirely possible. Dying to the tower is good. That's what we used to do back in Dota once upon a time as well. Yeah,
I mean, I think there's definitely some value potentially to be had there. I know it looks maybe a little bit silly, but it's, you know, you probably just get a little bit of extra tower damage in the early stages here. You can see that Guardian in lane 4 is maybe slightly above half HP, I guess, just based on what I can see there on the minimap. And it might not quite be that low had he not just kind of committed to that. And obviously, you know, you're not funneling any gold over or any souls, as it were, to your lane opponent by dying to that Guardian. It does give you a quick reset. So, look, it's not exactly a big loss for Demov at all. So, it's fine.
And you know, when we're talking about the draft and everything about how DMS has got this interesting complete draft, it's a very different style that Buff and Joyce have obviously gone for. These are heroes that they are playing again and again and again. Last time they played up against DMS, Zergi had his 7 in almost every single game, like 3 out of 4. Same with Sharek's Warden. Very often the shape is a priority as well, right? So Buff and Joyce are clearly going for comfort, and that's where they are allowed to display skill. It's an interesting contrast. Always will be. Ooh, meanwhile, Shark forced away. A lot of good damage being found onto him. Chaos can only do so much to try and deny up against the Wraith and the Vindicta. Always just so much harassed with those cards and that extra fire.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, Buff and Joyce are kind of being pushed back a little bit in some of these lanes. Low HP on Michaelis and Sharik and Obik and Listic. So those duo lanes at the moment, there is a little bit of kill threat, actually. KLS taking a good chunk of damage from those cards. And Hapex has actually been able to find Listic in that meanwhile. So there are some advantages being pulled back here for DMS.
Good to see. That's what you expect. Even if these guys very often do lose games, it is mostly close matches, right? Obik getting taken out of a hair as well while the Shiv was away. Listic's retreat back in is going to be made a little bit more tricky as well. All in the meanwhile, death everywhere, apparently, just not on our screens.
Yeah.
Allow me to peek your
well, New York tuxedo. Hard to really comment in some of these cases because we haven't really been able to see it, but still very, very even in terms of that soul count.
I'd love to take a look at lane 4 as well with Yamato, who obviously did take that early lead with a solo kill that he was able to find. Now, sitting on, he's admittedly up a wave, but pressuring underneath the tower should have about like a 500 souls lead or something like it. Wolfie rather has hit that level 6 though, so diving into him isn't the easiest thing in the world. It is lane 1 where pressure is being put onto Zergi instead. Play with me's rotation comes forward, Zergi forced away, and right now it's only going to be a case of farm denial. Not really a kill to be found. Lash goes in. Mikhails crosses back to Vindicta. She's going to be able to get mid-air. And there's nothing more you can do about it. 140 seconds cooldown on that Lash ult.
Yeah, Pressus is very, very lucky, though, that he actually landed on that bridge. If he would have landed below the bridge, if he would have got tossed back just a slight bit further, I think it might have been the kill angle actually for Mikhail, but just kind of got clipped on the lip there, and so survived as a result. Listic having a bit of a rough time at the moment though on this Shiv, and we see Dimov go down again. That's a nice dome, but it won't result in a kill on the Hapex.
I mean, Listic is coming back over. This could be something made of it. Still, this goo is going to be incredibly tanky. Now, here comes Listic. Oh my goodness, that's so annoying. Taking away the Ice Cube, right back to the phrase. It's still going to be demise of the Ivy, but she saves Saf. I guess it is a higher value target, so I guess something to take back with you.
I was going to say, who's ever seen a flying Ice Cube before, particularly a green one, but didn't last long. And a little bit of pressure coming down onto the Guardians here of DMS.
Ooh, that's a big old punch. One of the big problems over here with Listic's last death was I think it might have actually been diving the Ivy underneath the tower and getting overzealous, because you saw that Saf was actually rotating out to get the kill on Dimov. So it ends up being a very effective rotation, which makes the skill that they get in response all the more important. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't have any more problems coming in here for the Kelvin. He has to really be careful, continues to get the pressure on, but you could always end up slipping up.
Yep. Look at how much damage this Guardian is taking. It's been pretty much non-stop from Obik tossing those snowballs in that direction. They're able to top themselves up as well.
Ooh, good
innate healing. Is it though?
Oh, I mean, they're not able to get the stun out, right? So Hapex is going to be forced back, and now suddenly Listic is feeling frisky. Instead, though, dashes into a wall, and that is generally good to stop any Christmas risk.
Yeah, well, fair enough. All right, everyone gets the reset off. But it is definitely starting to heat up in these sort of mid two lanes in lane 2 and 3. Got some jungling happening now as well for the Pocket. Tends to be a pretty quick clear coming through from him. And again, we're kind of seeing Listic and Obik kind of on the front foot, right? They do need to be a little bit careful, but they've actually got that rotate coming through from Dimov. It seems like they really do want to take down this Guardian. If not that, maybe get a kill or two. But Affliction is going to come through. Will force at least a couple of those players back. Listic in particular, feeling like he's maybe not super healthy. The Dome will certainly help things out. The heals coming through from there, but Saf in Gooball mode is a problem. A very big one for Obik, it turns out. So 36 to 35 right now. Trade attempts are in, and it's not quite an overcommitment from Listic until a couple more players arrive. It's all messy. This is a massive team fight starting to pop off in lane number 3. So far, kind of an even trade actually between Buff and Joyers and DMS, and everyone will inevitably walk away.
I will say, not getting that assassinate kill does actually hurt. I think the assassinate shot was entirely missed, so there's no extra gold going out towards Prestis, which was what would have really started making things go the other way. Good rotation though coming out from Wolfie, but he does give up his Guardian for it.
Two Guardians down on the DMS side of the field, only the one from Buff and Joyers. Zergy going to try and get in there for something a little bit interesting. Has to pop his ulti, can't survive too long with that. It's still an early game 7 coming through there, so not particularly threatening, and will be taken down with the Wraith and Abrams combo on the behalf of DMS. So they're really not out of this battle at the moment.
I mean, I don't know if Sharik wasn't there in time, or maybe there's some miscommunication. The only reason to go in over there is if you're expecting it to get the stun and then the lash follow, the snare follow up from the Warden. I mean, you have to respect the Abrams at any point in even farm. It is so difficult to do anything to him in a situation like it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially when you're in a solo lane like it.
Yeah.
I guess it might have just a bit of a miscom, honestly, for Buff and Joyce. That's very possible. Hasn't cost them a huge amount. That Guardian is going to be well defended by Sharik. And it gives Zergy the chance to head into the jungle, which is where 7 loves to be. He'll return back to his lane. But so far, it's pretty even Stevens, and I think break this stalemate, we kind of have to be looking towards those Rune fights, obviously, and once the mid-boss starts to rock up here as well, how that ends up playing out. 10 minutes is about to tick over, so you can see a big fight in between lane 3 and 4 over that gun rune. I don't even know who that ended up going to, but either way, it looks like at least 1 or 2 players are not going to be getting out of here alive. Mikhail S being the first to drop. There's a Yamato in there, but the execute comes through. The ulti was already invested by Dimov, so he's not going to be able to get away with that.
That's a big difference make over there for the DMS side. Now, have to be careful here. There is Play With Me who's getting a flank out, but is he going to be here on time? Zergi's already low, and now with the flask to try and zone him out, it's Play With Me and his game to try and make this work. There's also rotation coming in from Psycho on that zipline. Warden's a dead man. Can Zergi get away? No, he can't. Is Wolfie to guarantee the kill? And now with Warden's demise forecasted, the question is the Weatherman correct? Of course he is.
Very, very messy. At this point in time, back and forth, Gargoyle form going to be coming out for Hapex, but he's getting into, pretty critical HP range. That execute not quite going to be landed by Prestus. The Shiv being a little bit too high, and so will be saved by the Dome back to near full HP, and the pressure on this Walker continues.
Getting the earned to the other side right now with how many people are in mid is going to be impossible. This Wraith is taking the dead man's toll. But no, what? No, they backed off completely. They're afraid, and maybe understandably so. That earn is guaranteed. Big win for DMS.
Yeah, Buff and Joy is just not interested in it at the moment.
There might
But
be
the
another
contest happening though. Yamato's hanging out over there. We'll pop the ulti. Dimov.
No.
Gonna try and push his way forward.
They got the urn back. They're going to be able to deliver it. No, the infliction now comes out. The Kubo trying to force them away. Urn still yet to be delivered, and it's the retreat from Shiv being planned out. Pocket to try and zone him away, but all in the meanwhile, there's a backline Vindicta that's hoping to get some sneaky executes. Chaos now in the flea market, and as that continues onward, it's a last stand that's activated. Pocket trying to hide away. Wolfie's still without the cloak, but it's a life steal to chase him down. The bullets to finish him off. It's retreat now planned out for the DMS side as Shiv's been given a chance to re-engage. This is Listic's game and he's here to win it, but Prestige doesn't want to let him have the controller. Missed executions, follow-up stuns, but it's still a kill for that Vindicta.
Absolute mess of a fight there. Prestus luckily had 3 charges on that ultimate, missed the first 2, landed the third one. In that meanwhile, by the way, DMS did actually pick up the urn. They trade, I would say, less than favorably. It's a 1 for 2 or 1 for, I think it might have been 1 for 2, 1 for 3 trade. DMS losing the 2 or 3. I didn't quite catch whether it was 3 players down or 2 players down, but they definitely lost the fight in that respect. However, they did manage to take the urn. So as far as the swing is concerned, it's not a massive swing one way or the other. And Buff and Joyce haven't really been able to get a whole lot off of it. They haven't been able to push down any significant amount of wardens or of wardens, walkers, I should say, or guardians necessarily. So a slight little lead here for Buff and Joyce is starting to develop, but that's by no means a crushing blow for DMS, that fight, just by virtue of the fact that they did manage to at least get some of the value from the urn.
Honestly, a very nice play from Dimov, though, to even put it into that position. I thought Dimov was going to be fully alone. He hit around the corner, got the punch out right in time to be able to dislodge the Urn, and that's what actually forced the fight in such unfavorable places, where Saf's goo ball was used to zone out Listic, and afterwards you don't have that in an environment where, honestly, the ball is really good at contesting for Urns. So, yeah, nicely played from Dimov.
You'll be the last one.
That is for sure. All right, well, things are going to slow down for the next few minutes, I dare say. No urn to take, and neither team really in a dominant enough position to start thinking about taking the mid-boss. A bit of a rotation back and forth around the map, maybe lane 4. Some pressure headed in that direction. We do have Saf on the Viscus kind of hanging out at the teleporter.
This is as even as it gets, Jordan. It's, what, 82 to 81 ability points as well, and that's a much better indication right now than Souls would be, because, you know, obviously Souls contribute out towards that ability point status, but, yeah.
Let's take out Ward.
Kills going the way of DMS, otherwise, yeah. This is always a nice thing about seeing Buff and Joys being put against DMS. You don't get a steamroll. You have to see them being pushed to the max, and right now, they're pushing the goo ball away. The stun dodged out by turning it into a cube, and that's a nice thing about cubes. You just dodge everything.
Yep.
I do really love the animation when he goes for the punch, and it just, like, spawns out that little, like, it feels like it's something from Venom.
The big old fist.
Yeah.
Alright, well, Urn has spawned once again. It looks like it'll be Buff and Joyers that are Right now, kind of thinking about picking it up. Listic was hanging around. Hasn't actually taken it just yet. He's going to shove lane 4 in and then start to make his rotation. Obviously, that's going to force DMS to kind of answer the push in lane 4 before they can rotate their way over to that Urn drop-off. So slight little advantage in the next 10 or 15 seconds here for Buff Enjoyers while that lane gets pushed out by Wolfie, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to translate into a free Urn.
Play with me.
Yeah, pretty quick TP over.
Sharik's coming nearby to try and find out that play with me Wraith, but at the same time, the fight is being fully set up. Psycho trying to make his way over. Guardian's fallen elsewhere. It's going to be a late arrival for Wolfie, and before that happens, play with me's already fallen. The goo ball activated. The Seven's ulti ready, but not forced out just yet. He knows he needs to get in better position, but Wolfie's chasing him away. Now comes out the electrical storm, but the damage might be enough to take him down. Instead, they've turned away. They don't want to fight into it. They can't fight into it. It's death and dismay for DMS.
That's a really, really good read from Buff Enjoyers, isn't it? I mean, DMS, I think they felt that they had a little bit of extra time to play with there because we did see Wolfie go back to base. It took a little while for all of their members to kind of get set up for that Urn drop-off. And I honestly don't think that they thought that Buff Enjoyers was just going to send it on that Urn drop-off. Buff Enjoyers, though, great read from them. They recognized that they actually had the advantage. I think they had like a two-player advantage, maybe a 4v6 at the start of that fight, and they've just sent it, you know? Like, there's no hesitation at all. It wasn't until a player had already died that Wolfie actually arrived at the fight with the Affliction coming through. He sped back, he zipline boosted back from base, but maybe made a fatal error of going back to base. Perhaps should have just TP'd over instead. And I think DMS just not really adequately set up for that Urn defense and ended up kind of trickling into that fight, which not only has it lost them the Urn, not only has it now lost them the fight, it's also lost them the mid-boss, and probably it's lost them the game as well.
It's certainly going to make it much more difficult to win at this point. You're right. And maybe there's a world where, hey, maybe it's on Wolfie making a mistake. Maybe play with me is not supposed to be pushing that far forward. But whatever world we're living in, it's not the right one for DMS. And they'd really like to change that. Chasing down a 3000 HP Shiv, though. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, this is go time now for Buff Enjoyers, isn't it? They've brought that soul lead out quite substantially to 7k. They've got the rejuve credit. And it's time to clean up, first of all, the Guardians, and now start thinking about the Walkers. There's a last-ditch kind of attempt here from DMS to try and pick off a couple of members, but there's no world where this fight should be favorable. Sharik was picked off, though. That was by Psycho on the Abrams. And the fact that they now have a 5-on-6 is actually going to give DMS the advantage in this engagement. It'll be slowed down by Buff Enjoyers, waiting for that respawn to come through.
The kill is on 1 HP. He's not going to be able to come back into it. Demov is hoping that he's going to be the difference making to the fly play with me. Taking a knee. Demov the one to force him down. And now Mikhails and Listic still separated, as Mikhails will be very late on his re-arrival into the fray. But when he comes, it could still be a difference maker. Still, a very low Kelvin means that DMS should have numbers advantage. But as their numbers are bleeding through, it is to death, not retreat, that they will be returned to their bases.
Yeah, I mean, Buff Enjoyers just slightly stronger going into that fight, of course, as it was. And then the faster respawn coming through from the rejuve gets Sharik back into that engagement. DMS obviously don't have such a luxury. So even though it debatably didn't start too badly for DMS, they are still going to lose a lot off of it. There's the next Walker coming through from Zergy. That's the flex slot unlocked, of course, for Buff Enjoyers. And again, another full send from DMS. To just try and catch up with anybody, to try and take anything out of this situation. Sharik was the target. He's managed to get out, though, through the tunnel to the mid-boss. And in the meanwhile, another Walker goes down. So it's just one Walker remaining for DMS. Buff Enjoy is doing a really good job of kind of pulling DMS all over the map, kind of giving them a little tasty snack, you know, on the end of the fishing line, and then reeling it back in before anything too substantial comes through. And in that other, meanwhile, they're just sort of hanging out on the other side of the map, taking objectives everywhere else.
Death brings consequences once more.
Demov's also is doing an incredible job of positioning around these fights. By the way, the fact that in the previous fight, he's able to keep himself on sort of that the mid-neutral camp side while still just being hidden away, waits for it to be close enough that he knows Sharik should be able to re-engage into the fight, and then uses everything to burst someone down. Demov has been doing fantastically well.
Yeah, and Listic with the survival rune now on Shiv is kind of insane. That is going to be a very, very tough Shiv to kill. I think I saw Obik there had the movement rune. It's going to be a very, very fast Kelvin as well. You're just not going to be getting away from that guy, and you're not going to be able to kill Shiv at the moment. So this is really rough territory for DMS. Even if that rejuve has sort of ticked away, it feels like damned if you do, damned if you don't right now for DMS. There's no avenue really where they have any ability to be proactive right now. I think they just have to kind of try and turtle up, slow this game down as much as they possibly can, and hope that there's going to be a mistake from Buff Enjoyers, because if this gets played out correctly, which you'd imagine it should be from Buff Enjoyers, there isn't really much of a window to come back in here for DMS.
And now, the hosts of Early and Bad agree with you. 115 to 480 odds, pretty one-sided.
I knew the Amber Hand could
Yeah, I mean, Buff Enjoyers are looking pretty switched on today.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
that.
Hey,
Great minds think alike is what they say.
do terrible minds also think alike?
I don't imagine so.
Okay, that's reassuring. What isn't reassuring though is the state of the game right now for Play With Me, and I hate to single him out right now, but it really does feel like he's been missing some core survivability. Can we get an eye out on the rates items, by the way, by any chance? That would be great. That's the Abrams.
That is the Abrams. He's
That is
looking
the
mighty
Abrams.
fine in his new attire.
It's true, actually. Looks legit.
You know
looks
what?
kinda-
I think
Go ahead.
that looks like something you would wear.
I would love to.
Yeah,
Actually,
I know it.
yeah.
See, this
I don't
is
think
more
I've got
me.
the shoulders
This is more
for
me.
it. That's
I don't
true.
get-
You've
I
definitely,
like the Santa hat.
you've definitely got the bum for this. Oh yeah, the Santa hat too. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was talking about the Santa hat.
But yes,
Being one
I
of
think
those
Wraith
tomorrow?
really needs to be able to get some armor on right now. You know, just get anything additional as far as the HP is concerned, because she is getting ripped apart. I'm not sure whether she has her bullet armors just quite yet, or even the spirit, but
Whoa.
no. Maybe it's going to be a catch out on this Listic Shiv. He's certainly not feeling too healthy, but as the pocket doesn't feel comfortable for assuming it's going to come down to everyone else inside the Kelvin Bowl, they will be fighting up, but as retreat is no longer an option for the DMS side, it is the Ivy to be backing out her carry player. Wolfie dodging what he can, but death will find him wherever he goes.
Yes, indeed. And Play With Me getting caught out there as well by Zergi in lane 4. A few snipes coming on from Prestis, but it's just not enough damage right now for this Vindicta. And I gotta say, this is like one of the worst places to be as a Vindicta. You honestly feel so useless at this point. You know, you can throw those tethers, and that is useful. You know, that's a fairly innate piece of utility, I suppose. But at the end of the day, you know, your whole role is to do damage and to get kills. And it's sort of feeling like I can shoot as long as I want, but I'm just not going to get any kills. And even the executes are kind of starting to come fewer and fewer, more difficult to come by. So not a whole lot being added, unfortunately, by the Vindicta pick at this point when your opponents are so far ahead.
boss has arrived.
I think the worst part is Zergi is sitting on 30,000 gold, and we haven't even fully seen him come into play with sort of that, you know, gun damage heavy 7 build that he likes to go for. It's largely been working around his ultimates and allowing him to leverage those into the late game where he can use his gun. That's the thing about Zergi. He is genuinely just a master of making it to team fights alongside that ulti, and then screwing off to do whatever he wants for 2 minutes until afterwards.
Yep. It is what it is. That's just the nature of the beast sometimes. But it's working, obviously, for Buff Enjoyers. And right now, obviously, with the mid-boss respawning, that's going to be the focus of attention, particularly for Buff Enjoyers. I guess there is a world where if DMS can somehow manage to win a fight around this mid-boss, if a mistake is being made by Buff Enjoyers, maybe a steal can come through, something like that, then there is a world where DMS can flip this game back on its head. But it really does come down to this mid-boss. Like, it has to happen now, because if it doesn't happen now, you won't get the chance.
This is more the lead that you start to get worried about. That sort of 9-10 AP gap where you also have lost all map control, everything like it. DMS doing a good job of trying to keep up, but how much longer is that going to be maintained? Psycho saved by the cube, saved by the rescue beam. They've desperately needed those, and as they dodge out Mikhail's ultimate, maybe there's a room to re-engage.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is one, I guess, piece of the puzzle. But it's only 1 out of 5 ultimates now on cooldown, and with the relative strength of the two teams, I don't necessarily feel like that shifts the needle too much away from buff enjoyers. Obviously, DMS are kind of still doing that dance around this mid-boss, but they don't actually want to have a fight by the looks of things.
I mean, this is... if they lose this mid-boss, though, they can't win the game. It's just not going to be possible. Even if you're not willing to fight, you cannot let buff enjoyers take this one away.
I mean, the way that it's going at the moment, Mikhail's going to have the ulti back online before the fight actually starts. So with mid-boss now well below half, buff enjoyers may just be forcing it. DMS don't really have an option anymore. The Urn was picked up in that meanwhile, but Sap's going to have to come rolling probably back across here. This is a real flip, though. It's a real 50-50. Everything's getting thrown in there. It's actually a steal coming through, of course, from Psycho 13 on that Abrams. He's managed to come up with a big play. DMS might still actually flip this game back on its head. It's a 2-for-1 trade so far. Respawn's, of course, going to be favorable for DMS at this stage of the game now with that rejuve credit. And somehow, buff enjoyers have found a way to potentially still let this game slip.
That's particularly impressive when you consider that there's a Kelvin on the other side who is supposed to be so incredibly good at securing rejuves. It's really, really nicely done over there. Great engagement coming from the side as well, just making sure that they're able to isolate that fuel. Psycho coming in directly from the lane entrance. It's fantastic. And now with the Urn delivery as well on top of it all, you're getting flex slots, you're getting soul, and you're getting another 2.5 minutes to keep the pressure going. This is what you needed.
Yeah, Urn's going to be taken, 2 Walkers going to be taken, mid-boss going to be taken. That is a massive swing back for DMS. They were about 15, 20k behind at one point, and now they're actually 3k in the lead. So one could argue this might actually now be their game to lose. I got to say, that is pretty egregious from buff enjoyers. Like, there's no real reason to flip at the mid-boss there. Like, why? They have the advantage. They are the stronger team. Why are they going for a 50-50 fight at the mid-boss, you know? Like,
especially when you consider that your Kelvin's not in position to steal the rejuve either. You don't have your Lash ultimate, which is so incredibly strong within the pit. You don't have any of those sort of big abilities that enable something like it. Unless they're just thinking, oh, well, you know, if Zergy ults, we're going to be fine. Which, I mean, I can see why you'd think that, but that's just not true, unfortunately, when you've got this many tankier heroes on the other side, and the healing of the Ivy.
I mean, maybe just a mis-execution on the behalf of buff enjoyers. You know, they felt like they had the angle, and maybe it just didn't play out that way. Obviously, that can happen as well. But yeah, I don't think buff enjoyers will be too pleased with the proceedings now, because they're very much on the back foot, at least until this rejuve disappears for DMS, which has still got quite a ways to go. So DMS, they're definitely wanting to pressure down this final Walker.
Under attack.
Well, looks like it's still going to be a re-engagement coming up from McKills, but no one caught out once again, and ultimate used in vain. Re-engagement also from Sharik, whose last stand feels like it's not really doing too much standing. And as everyone else is disengaged from the DMS side, they are just getting ready to go back in. This Walker is guaranteed death. Its legs are not going to be standing for much longer, but who else is going to take a knee? Right next to it, re-initiation. In they go. But the retreat from the DMS side is going to be immediate, as they don't want to overextend.
Yeah, this is going to be the next crucial couple of minutes here for DMS, because they have actually put themselves in a position where they can now win this game. It felt like it was well out of it, for sure, but able to make that still happen has put them ahead. But the next sort of 2 to 5 minutes is really going to be a big difference maker, right? If DMS just lose another fight right here straight up, it goes straight back over to buff enjoyers, and they probably end right there. So we're kind of getting almost into one fight territory, depending on obviously how considerable that fight is.
I really do like the fact, I mean, we just got to sort of see the levels as well, and Play With Me completely deprioritizes his teleport. He goes for the full damage build, and he goes for the AoE control build, with his ultimate being what he prioritizes first, and then immediately after sort of that frenzy bullet attack speed 3 that you have. So that's interesting to me. Normally I see much more mobility being prioritized from Wraiths in that regard, so yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing is with this kind of a composition, obviously you have a lot of situations where you can actually be saved by your teammates. Hapex obviously playing that Ivy, that's one thing. Has
The
got
rescue beam as well.
Obviously Saf with the cube as well. You've got inherently quite a beefy front line with a lot of crowd control, people that can help you out, that can save you. So you might not necessarily need to rely on your self-peel quite as much, or at least that could be the thinking for DMS right here. In which case maybe that's the argument.
There's a lot of teleport denial actually on the other side as well, so it's really nice to see, right? Like, you know, you've got a lot of very natural slowing hex builders. You've got obviously the Lash, who's very good at being able to take that away. Zerky's got his own stun as well, which follows you along even if you're trying to dodge it out, and then Snare as a follow-up if you'd like that, as well as, you know, let's not forget the Kelvin Dome or anything like it. There's a lot that can actually catch up to you. In contrast, the Rescue Beam is just much better at doing that.
Yep. All right, big fight here for the urn. Not necessarily so much just to have the urn. Ooh, that could be awkward. Very much in trouble. The Yamato trying to follow through on to play with me, but Ivy there to assist as always. The re-engage, as you say, from DMS coming through here, but Play With Me is really struggling to find any space in this fight at all, and that's one of your big damage dealers out of the picture early on in the piece. Buff Enjoyers, thanks to Dimov and Zergy, already finding themselves with a 5-on-6 advantage, and that might well be enough to force DMS back. Urn is going to be taken by Buff Enjoyers, and then with that, a kill as well onto Wolfie. This might be the beginning of the end for DMS, and that one big flip in the mid-fight, unfortunately, may have just been a bit of a wishful thinking, you know, a bit of fake hope, false hope for DMS.
I have no idea what the comms are like in DMS right now, because there's no way Play With Me wanted to go for that fight right there. Hapex didn't put him in the right position either. There's already an initiation happening with the rest of the teammates, which makes it difficult for them to do anything. You're not going to get the Ivy Stone form out onto anyone to be able to quickly burst them down with a Wraith either. That was tough, but now maybe this is the fight they wanted to take. A retreat being requested, but will it be accepted? Buff Enjoy still wanting to fight back on the slopes as they will be fading away, just making sure there's enough damage that if there's overextension, you can always look to punish. Mid-boss on the menu. But who's going to actually order it?
At this point, I hope nobody does. You know, this is like the forbidden fruit, you know? It's like going to Asia and ordering McDonald's, you know? You just shouldn't do it.
One of those situations where you get put into an all-you-can-eat and you know you can't eat it, but you do it anyway and you bear the cost.
I mean, in saying that though, like, I don't think either team is in a position really to close this game out in a straight-up 6v6. You know, they need some kind of assistance. You know, you need the mid-boss to be able to force the base down. There's not enough actual strength there without it.
It's not an optional objective. And Buff Enjoy realized that.
He's at 41k right now, and he's massively ahead of the rest of his team and most of DMS as well. So he's going to be that key factor heading into this late game now.
This one, there's that Lash ultimate. Abrams going in, hoping to find something. Lash trying to pull them back, but the Rejuvenate has been taken by Demov. Is this fight already gone? Is this game already lost? This disengagement attempted as Wolfie will cloak away, but kills coming out from everywhere, and the ethereal shift is only going to buy time in a clock that's only got so many numbers left on it. Warp Stone away, mobility to the max, but guess what? There's still a chase to come forward. Even if you and your teammates aren't going to, and now it's death and Dismal.
Unfortunately for Prestis, he was never going to be getting out of there once Sergey got on top of him. That's more or less the end of the game for DMS. That was how it was supposed to go for Buff Enjoyers, you know, 5-10 minutes ago, but didn't quite manage to convert that initial mid-boss, but they have managed to get it done here, and so DMS, it almost hurts more to lose this way.
I don't know, I think it hurts more to lose it in 20 minutes. No, but it felt like definitely they had a lot more hope than you might ever normally expect.
Yeah.
Gotta say though, maybe a last stand, maybe another chance. Mischarge onto the shape. He's going to continue to do all the damage in the world. Listic now telekinesis up. Drill re-engages. Telekinesis does a lot, but it doesn't stop these bullets from coming to you. And still the goo ball as well. Survivability found, but can you really survive the grim Santa Claus of Listic? It's a turnaround, it's a parry, and it's a dead cycle.
He's like the Grinch or something at this point. He's kind of just running through DMS right now and saying Christmas is cancelled. The patron is starting to go down well below half HP, and it's only Prestus, Wolfie, and Psycho to try to save the day. It's not going to happen. It will be Buff and Joyous to take game 1. I don't want to say in convincing fashion, though. I think there was definitely a world where that could have been a lot cleaner for Buff and Joyous, but you do get the feeling, T-Time, that they were kind of a cut above today. Even when they did try their hardest almost to lose that game, they were still able to pull it back and get the dub.
It's weird because it sometimes feels like DMS has genuinely a psychological disadvantage against them. And even over here, when we saw that lead sort of being there, DMS is timing everything down to a T. They know that, oh, our rejuve is expiring in 30 seconds, immediately disengage. Let's not even think about fighting again. Oh no, we've been caught. Oh, our rate's been caught out. Maybe we can re-engage, maybe not. It's always this frantic, haphazard comms in the most difficult of positions. And unfortunately, a lot of the time that is just mental warfare that you're losing out on. And you know what, Buff and Joyous, there are a lot of things, but you cannot call them nervous.
No, indeed. I mean, they've been here, they've done that before. They're on their way to another victory against DMS, which is something that we've seen from them in the past. So can't imagine they're feeling too bad going into game number 2. We're obviously going to have to take a break in the meanwhile before we do jump into that one, give the players some time to sort of get that draft sorted, have a drink of water and whatnot. But the way things are going right now, T-Time, I mean, this is looking like a 2-0 to me, just based on the eye test, particularly if Buff and Joyous can just cross the T's and dot the I's. You know, they had it in the bag, they almost threw it, but they still had it in the bag. You know what I mean? So if they just make life easy for themselves, I think we're looking at a clean 2-0 today. That, of course, though, is going to be coming up after the break. So don't go too far away. We'll take a short one right here, and we'll be back when game 2 is ready.